Staff Sergeant Daniel Reeves had always believed that serving at the tomb of the unknown soldier was not just a duty, but an honor given to a chosen few. He had spent years in perfect silence at Arlington National Cemetery, guarding the resting place of those who gave everything for their country. The sound of his steady footsteps on the marble path echoed through every season, under the burning sun, heavy rain, and even snow that covered his boots. To Daniel, every step was a promise that no fallen soldier would ever be forgotten. After retiring from active duty, Daniel continued to serve in a different way. He joined a charity that supported Gold Star families, those who had lost loved ones in service. He traveled to small towns visiting widows and children, listening to their stories and helping them find comfort. People admired his quiet strength and humble attitude. To everyone who met him, Daniel wasn't just a soldier. He was a man who carried the heart of every American hero inside him. One evening, while Daniel was reviewing files for a new veteran support event, his phone buzzed with a message from a friend. It was a link to a video. "You need to see this," the message said. Daniel clicked the link, expecting something simple. But what appeared on his screen made his heart sink. The video showed Senator Charles Wainwright, a well-known and wealthy politician, speaking at a private fundraiser. The senator was laughing with donors, holding a glass in his hand, and in the background someone had asked him about the tomb of the unknown soldier. Daniel froze as he heard the senator's words. The man chuckled and said something disrespectful about the soldiers who just stand there and do nothing all day. People around him laughed. The moment felt unreal. Daniel couldn't believe that a person in such a high position, a leader who was supposed to represent the country's respect for its heroes, could mock something so sacred. He replayed the video again and again, hoping he had misheard, but every word stung the same. That night he didn't sleep. His heart was heavy, not with anger, but with disappointment. The tomb wasn't just a job for him. It was a symbol of everything right about service, sacrifice, and silence. The next morning, Daniel decided he couldn't stay quiet. He wrote a short post on his social media page. His words were calm but powerful. He said that the tomb of the unknown soldier wasn't a stage or a statue. It was a living promise made to those who could no longer speak for themselves. He wrote, "Honor is not a decoration. It's something you carry every day, even when no one is watching." His post quickly spread across the internet. Thousands of veterans, families, and citizens shared it, thanking Daniel for speaking up. The video of the senator began to circulate even faster. Reporters started calling his office for comments. At first, Daniel thought the senator would apologize and admit his mistake. But what happened next shocked everyone. Senator Wainwright appeared on a news channel the next day. Instead of apologizing, he attacked Daniel directly. He accused Daniel of stolen valor, saying that Daniel had exaggerated his service record and wasn't as decorated as he claimed. The senator even hinted that Daniel had used his charity work to gain attention and money. Watching the interview, Daniel felt like the air had been taken out of him. He had never asked for fame. He had never bragged about his service. And now the man who had disrespected the fallen was trying to destroy his reputation. Within days, Daniel's sponsors began withdrawing from his charity projects. Invitations to veteran events were suddenly postponed. Some people who once stood proudly beside him stopped answering his calls. For the first time in years, Daniel felt truly alone. One evening, he walked through Arlington Cemetery again. It was quiet except for the wind moving through the trees. He stopped near the tomb where he once stood guard. The current tomb guard, a young soldier, passed him in silence, performing the same 21 steps Daniel had once perfected. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He whispered softly, "I didn't speak for myself. I spoke for you, all of you." Just then, an elderly man approached him. It was Major Thomas Burke, Daniel's old commanding officer. The major had seen the news and came to find him. "You did the right thing, son," he said gently. "Sometimes standing for honor costs more than a paycheck. But in the end, truth doesn't bend to power." Daniel nodded, but the pain in his chest didn't fade. He knew this wasn't just about pride anymore. It was about defending every soldier who couldn't defend themselves. Over the next few weeks, Daniel began collecting every document that proved his service record, from his enlistment papers to his commendation letters. His lawyer friend, a former Marine, offered to help him review the case. While they worked through the files, Daniel noticed something odd. Several of the documents related to his charity funding had strange inconsistencies. Some grant payments that were supposed to go to veteran programs never arrived. Curious, Daniel started to look deeper. The more he searched, the more strange details appeared. Missing funds, unapproved signatures, and names of donors connected directly to Senator Wainwright's campaign. It felt like a puzzle was unfolding in front of him. The senator's attack on Daniel suddenly seemed less like a personal grudge and more like a cover-up for something bigger. The realization hit him like a cold wave. The senator wasn't just trying to ruin his name, he was trying to silence him before the truth came out. That night, Daniel sat at his desk surrounded by papers and letters. He stared at a photo on the wall, him in uniform, standing at the tomb, head high, rifle by his side. The photo reminded him of the words his sergeant had once told him during training. Guarding the unknown means guarding the truth, even when it costs you everything. Daniel knew what he had to do. He took a deep breath and called his lawyer. "I'm done staying silent," he said firmly. "If he wants a fight, I'll give him one, but the truth will speak louder than his power." And with that decision, the quiet tomb guard who had once stood in silence at Arlington was about to shake the walls of Washington. After making the decision to stand up against Senator Wainwright, Daniel Reeves felt a mix of fear and determination. He knew this was going to be the hardest fight of his life, but he also knew it was the right one. He spent days organizing his documents, letters, and photographs to prove beyond any doubt that he had served honorably as a tomb guard. Every commendation, every report, every photograph from Arlington was neatly arranged. Nothing could be overlooked. His lawyer, Captain Laura Simmons, a former Marine with years of experience defending veterans, told him, "Daniel, this isn't just about you. It's about exposing the truth. If we do this carefully, we can show the public what honor really looks like." Daniel nodded. He didn't need money. He didn't need fame. All he wanted was justice and the truth to be heard. But as they dug deeper into his charity finances, they discovered something even more shocking. Several grants and donations that were supposed to go to veteran programs had disappeared without explanation. Further investigation revealed that some of the funds had been redirected to accounts linked to Senator Wainwright's campaign. It became clear that the senator had been using veterans' charities to build his wealth and influence, all while pretending to support the men and women who serve the country. Daniel felt a wave of anger mixed with sadness. This was bigger than personal revenge. This was about protecting the integrity of every veteran and their families. He realized that the senator's attempt to discredit him wasn't just about silencing a former tomb guard. It was about keeping people from discovering the misuse of funds. With Laura's guidance, Daniel filed a lawsuit that shocked the nation. The claim wasn't just for defamation. It included fraud, misuse of charitable funds, and emotional damage. The amount he sought, $100 million, made headlines instantly. News outlets ran the story. Tomb guard takes on wealthy senator. Veteran files $100 million lawsuit against politician. People were captivated. The soldier who had once stood silently at Arlington was now at the center of a national battle. Support poured in from all corners. Veterans sent letters of encouragement, and Gold Star families shared their gratitude. They remembered how Daniel had helped them after their losses. Citizens wrote messages of admiration, praising his courage. Even some politicians called privately to express support, though publicly they remained silent, wary of the powerful senator. Despite the growing attention, Daniel stayed focused on the truth. He spent hours meeting with Laura, reviewing emails, bank statements, and internal communications from Wainwright's office. Every document added a piece to the puzzle. Some emails showed that the senator had personally signed off on diverting charity money to luxury trips and high-end events that had nothing to do with veterans. Other emails mocked the programs, calling them expenses that nobody will notice. The more evidence they gathered, the more Daniel realized the courage it would take to go to court. He was up against not just a senator, but a system that often protected the wealthy and powerful. But Daniel remembered why he had become a tomb guard in the first place. He had sworn to protect the honor of soldiers who could no longer defend themselves. This was no different. When the lawsuit was officially filed, the media frenzy intensified. Television networks interviewed him, but Daniel always spoke with humility. He didn't brag or exaggerate. He said things like, "I am not here for money. I am here for truth, for respect, for honor." His words resonated with people. Soon, Daniel became a symbol, not just of courage but of integrity in a world where money and influence often overshadowed honesty. The senator, meanwhile, was unprepared for the level of attention. Initially, Wainwright tried to dismiss the claims, calling Daniel a small-time former soldier looking for attention. But as the documents surfaced, and investigative journalists began publishing stories about the missing charity funds, the senator's public image started to crack. He canceled appearances, avoided interviews, and even withdrew from some public events. The more he tried to hide, the more people began to suspect that there was truth to Daniel's accusations. Throughout this time, Daniel's personal life remained surprisingly grounded. He spent mornings at the cemetery, walking among the tombs and remembering the fallen. He spent afternoons with veterans' families, checking in on their needs and making sure that none of the lost funds had caused real harm. And at night he would sit with Laura, reviewing more documents and strategizing their next move. It was exhausting work, but Daniel never lost focus. He knew that once the truth was exposed, it could prevent others from being cheated or silenced. One of the most significant moments came when Daniel discovered a set of internal emails that clearly showed the senator using his public image as a veteran supporter to cover financial misdeeds. Daniel realized that these emails were the key to proving not only that the senator had defamed him, but also that he had exploited the trust of the public. This evidence turned the case from a personal fight into a national scandal. As the lawsuit progressed, the senator's allies began to distance themselves. Politicians who had once supported him quietly removed statements of endorsement. Lobbyists who had relied on his power began to whisper that the situation could destroy his career. Meanwhile, veterans across the country rallied behind Daniel. Groups held marches, posted on social media, and wrote to representatives demanding accountability. The story of the tomb guard fighting for truth captured the hearts of many who had never even known Daniel's name before. Through all of this, Daniel remained humble. He refused interviews that focused on money or personal fame. When asked by reporters why he was pursuing such a huge lawsuit, he said, "This isn't about $100 million. This is about showing that no one, no matter how powerful, can mock honor or misuse the trust of those who serve." By the time the courtroom proceedings began, Daniel had become a symbol of integrity, and the country was watching closely. People weren't just curious about the lawsuit. They were invested in the idea that one man could stand against corruption and win. Daniel knew the fight wasn't over yet, but he also knew that no matter the outcome, he had already proven something important. Standing up for truth and honor mattered more than personal safety, comfort, or approval. And so, as he prepared for the first day in court, Daniel Reeves, the quiet tomb guard who once walked silently among the fallen, was now ready to face the most powerful man in Washington. He had gathered evidence, rallied support, and strengthened his resolve. The battle ahead would be long and challenging, but he was determined. After all, for someone who had dedicated a lifetime to protecting honor, giving up was never an option. The day Daniel Reeves had been preparing for finally arrived. The courthouse in Washington, D.C. was buzzing with reporters, cameras, and people eager to witness what had already been called the trial of the year. Daniel felt a mix of nerves and determination. For years he had stood silently at the tomb of the unknown soldier, guarding honor and dignity. Now he was standing up in a courtroom defending truth itself. Daniel's lawyer, Captain Laura Simmons, reminded him quietly before entering the courtroom, "Remember, Daniel, this is about the facts. Speak from your heart and people will understand." He nodded, taking a deep breath. Today it wasn't just about a personal fight or money. It was about restoring faith and integrity and protecting the honor of veterans across the country. The trial began with opening statements. Wainwright's lawyers tried to paint Daniel as someone seeking attention, someone who exaggerated his role and his contributions. But Daniel stayed calm. He listened, knowing that the truth was on his side. When it was his turn to speak, he walked to the stand slowly, standing tall in front of the jury. He wore his old uniform's ceremonial jacket, a subtle reminder of his service and dedication. Daniel began recounting his years as a tomb guard. He described the 21 steps, the 21 seconds, and the precise rituals followed at the tomb. Every movement carried deep meaning. The jury listened, captivated by the detail and solemnity of his words. He explained how guarding the tomb wasn't about being watched or admired. It was about respect, remembrance, and keeping a promise to those who could no longer speak for themselves. Then came the most important moment. Daniel and Laura presented the evidence they had uncovered. Emails, financial records, and documents showing how Wainwright had redirected funds meant for veterans' charities to private accounts. Each piece of evidence was carefully explained, showing the connection between the senator's actions and the impact on real people, families, widows, and children of fallen soldiers. The courtroom was silent. Even the reporters seemed to hold their breath. The evidence was clear. Wainwright's attempts to mock Daniel and discredit him had been a cover-up, a way to prevent the public from learning the truth. Daniel spoke slowly and clearly, ensuring every word could be understood. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about the trust between citizens and those they elect. It's about making sure no one abuses the honor and sacrifice of those who serve." During cross-examination, Wainwright's lawyers tried to intimidate Daniel, asking difficult questions and suggesting that he had personal motives. But Daniel remained steady. He answered honestly, never raising his voice, never showing anger. His composure impressed the jury and even some spectators. It became clear that Daniel's credibility and integrity were far stronger than the senator's words. Outside the courtroom, media coverage exploded. Headlines read, "Tomb Guard exposes Senator. Veteran stands for truth, and Washington faces its most powerful veteran yet." People followed every update. Social media lit up with messages of support, praising Daniel for his courage and determination. Veterans organizations issued statements in his favor, calling his actions a reminder that integrity could still prevail in public life. As the trial continued, one of the most powerful moments came when Daniel shared stories of families he had helped through his charity work. He spoke of a mother who had lost her son in Afghanistan, of a father who had buried his daughter, and of children who had grown up without a parent because of service. He described how the diverted funds had been meant to help these families, and how the senator's actions had betrayed their trust. The jury and spectators were visibly moved. Daniel didn't just talk about money or legal arguments, he spoke about people, honor, and sacrifice. Finally, after weeks of testimony, the closing statements began. Laura Simmons spoke passionately, reminding the jury of Daniel's lifelong dedication to service, the respect he had earned, and the clear evidence of misconduct by the senator. "This is more than a lawsuit," she said. "This is about justice, integrity, and the values that make this country strong." Daniel Reeves represents those values every day. When the verdict was announced, the courtroom was tense. The jury found in favor of Daniel Reeves on all counts. The judge awarded him $100 million in damages, the largest sum in a defamation and fraud case involving a public official. Daniel felt a wave of relief, but more than that, he felt validation. Not for the money, but for the truth. He had stood up against one of the most powerful men in Washington, and had proven that integrity could not be silenced. After the trial, Daniel made a statement to the press. He was calm, humble, and thoughtful. "I never sought this fight for myself," he said. "This is about every veteran, every family, and every person who believes in honor. I will use this money to support veterans and restore programs that help those who served." The victory is not mine alone. It belongs to every person who values truth and integrity. True to his word, Daniel donated most of the money to veterans' charities, education programs, and the restoration of memorials across the country. The story of his courage inspired people everywhere, from small towns to big cities. Schools invited him to speak about service and integrity. Veterans groups held events in his honor, and even young soldiers began looking to him as a role model. Meanwhile, Senator Wainwright faced intense scrutiny. Investigations were launched and public opinion turned sharply against him. Many of his supporters distanced themselves, and eventually, he resigned from his position. The senator's career, built on power and influence, had crumbled in the face of truth. Despite the media attention and public recognition, Daniel remained grounded. He continued visiting Arlington Cemetery, walking silently among the tombs, remembering the fallen, and reflecting on the responsibilities of those who serve. He returned to helping families in need, traveling to towns across the country, speaking to veterans, and advocating for programs that honored service and sacrifice. Through it all, Daniel never forgot why he had stood up in the first place. It wasn't about fame, money, or revenge. It was about honor, integrity, and protecting the truth. And in the end, The quiet tomb guard who once walked silently through Arlington had reminded a nation that courage is not always loud, and that one person's determination can make a lasting difference. As the sun set over the cemetery one evening, Daniel paused near the tomb of the unknown soldier. The wind moved softly through the trees, carrying with it the weight of history and the whispers of those he had vowed to honor. He thought of the battles, the challenges, and the truths he had fought to reveal. With a steady heart, he whispered, "Honor doesn't fade. Even when the powerful try to bury it, it still stands." And with that, Daniel Reeves walked away, not as a man seeking recognition, but as a soldier who had defended the honor of his country, showing the world that courage, integrity, and truth are stronger than wealth or influence.